Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Intergen's first episode in our Climate Tech Breakfast Club series. Today, we have two really exciting speakers, but before we get started, I just want to give a quick shout out to our team and as well as our industry partners who will be making speaker introductions today. So my name is Kyle Beckwimert. I'm the venture lead with Intergen. Khaled Hansraj is our program director. Tony Ignacio, marketing manager. Emily Hillman, community relations, and of course, our CEO, Sandy Gilbert. I briefly want to introduce our industry partners, Christina Lopez, who's managing director with National Bank, and Puneet Menon, who's associate director with Innovate Calgary in their energy transition hub. Christina, I'll hand it over to you to make the speaker introductions and just tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at National Bank. So Christina, we'll start with you first.
Thank you, Kyle. As mentioned, my name is Christina Lopez. I'm Managing Director of Investment Banking at National Bank Financial with a focus on the clean tech sector. National Bank is proud to partner with Intergen on its Clean Tech Breakfast Club series. The series combines two core focuses of the bank, the drive to support entrepreneurs through various stages of growth, as well as a mission to aid companies that are helping decarbonize industries. ZS2, one of our presenting company today, is a unique company that focuses on the research, development, and commercialization of innovative construction materials that are stronger, safer, healthier, and more environmentally conscious. ZS2's innovative construction materials are fire-rated, non-toxic, and low carbon. Their prefabricated panels provide cost certainty, accelerate construction timelines, and lower building costs. All of this from a company that was born during COVID and is based in our great city. Joining us today from ZS2 is Scott Jenkins, co-founder and CEO. Scott is an entrepreneur that is always looking at a better way to deliver products and solutions to customers. Prior to joining ZS2, he was the president and director of DIRT Environmental Solutions and was part of the leadership team that grew sales from 6 million per annum to over 300 million per annum in 11 years. Scott led the successful IPO on the Toronto Stock Exchange and helped oversee the manufacturing expansion of two major manufacturing locations in Georgia and Arizona, along with the opening of sales offices in the UK and Singapore. Prior to joining DIRT, Scott helped guide another high-growth company as the CFO of Pure Technologies. Scott began his career at KPMG and is a member of the Chartered Professional Accountants of Alberta, Young Presidents Organization, and a graduate of the University of Alberta. In addition to all his professional accomplishments, Scott is a dedicated father of two boys and a devoted husband. He's always keen to meet for breakfast, so it's just fitting that this is a breakfast series because he's one of the earliest risers that I know. So with that, I will pass it back over to Kyle.
Thanks, Christina. I appreciate it. Puneet, let's hand it over to you to make an introduction to Matt.
Thanks, Kyle. Good morning, everyone. As Kyle said, I'm the Associate Director of the Energy Transition Center at Innovate Calgary. Innovate Calgary is a technology commercialization arm of the university. And in addition to managing the intellectual property assets for the university, we have the vertical strategies where we have sectoral focus on helping move research from lab to commercialization. And I'm managing the energy sector portfolio. I'm pleased today to introduce Matthew Grieves, one of the co-speakers today. Matt is the president of Magnum Ventures, a private real estate development and acquisition, disposition, and leasing firm in Calgary. Matt started his career with Oxford Property Group and Westcorp Construction before founding Magnum Ventures in 2009. In addition to his role at Magnum Ventures, Matt also serves as the director for the Inn at the Forks, a boutique hotel in Winnipeg, and a board member with Altitude Investments and ZS2 Technologies. Matt holds a BA from Huron University College at the University of Western Ontario. Welcome, Matt, and over to Kyle. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Puneet and Christina, and it's great to have you, Scott and Matt. So we have about 40 minutes for questions, and then afterwards we'll jump into a Q&A from the panel afterwards. And if you have any questions at all, I encourage you to either speak up or just type it in the dialogue box down below and we'll get to it. If you're comfortable, please just try to keep your video on. It's always good to put a face to the name. So with that, let's get to the questions. But first, I just want to say congrats to Scott on the new partnership with Lithium Bank for the CO2 capture. That's really exciting news, and we'd love to hear a little bit more about that towards the end of our show. But let's get to the first question, and we'd love to hear about how kind of ZS2 started and really what compelled you to start the company in the first place.
Well, let me start real quick before I answer the question, just to say a huge thank you to Puneet and Innovate Calgary for all the great work they do in Calgary and Alberta, supporting companies like ourselves. Christina should actually be speaking today after that introduction. She's also an early riser, as she noted, and really appreciate all the support of National Bank. For those on the call that don't know, National Bank was a huge supporter of ours in two of our previous companies, and really has one of the best clean tech, technology focused investment banking teams in Canada, but specifically here in Western Canada. And that's very important, I think, for today's discussion about talking about homegrown technology companies. And then a huge thank you, obviously, to Sandy and the whole Intergen team and what you guys do for the technology ecosystem here in Alberta, the city of Calgary. And it was fitting about a half an hour ago before we jumped on the call. I just confirmed a lunch, so not a breakfast, Christina, with Jamie Paulson, the chairman and founder of Pure Technologies, who was one of those early innovators in this space. And Jamie's a mentor of mine from Pure, and it'll be good to catch up with him. So I think it's fitting that that's happening today. So in terms of the founding of ZS2, it's really simple for the folks to say. I won't have a long answer, and I know we're going to chat with Matt as one of our earliest supporters, investors, and board members. ZS2 really is the combination of prefabrication building technologies, so building offsite to address inefficiencies in the world's largest industry, which is construction. So sort of borrowing on that DNA we had at DIRT, but then adding something that we never had in any of our predecessor companies, and that's true material science. That's, innovative, invented here in Alberta, using resources that are available to us in Alberta. And this will tie into, Kyle, your comment about Lithium Bank a little bit and why we're so excited about that partnership. And some exciting announcements we hope to make in about 2 weeks, which unfortunately I can't share just yet. We'll tease there. So it's really those two things. It's material science for resilient, sustainable, high performance building materials that the world needs. So fire resistant, storm resistant, flood resistant. We think about the changing world. Made here in Alberta, but then combining that with prefab. And so it was actually really a credit to one of our other co-founders, Kristen Davis, and her sort of saying to Doug Brown and myself, and then our founding kind of investor, Dave Richardson, and saying, look, at the beginning of COVID, there's an opportunity here, and we can bring this all together and borrow on what we've learned in our past companies. So sorry, that ended up being a little longer than I had intended, but
no, that's great.
That was really the genesis. And what else are you going to do during a worldwide pandemic but start a company?
Right. Exactly. Great. Thanks, Scott. Matt, can you tell us a little bit more about your work at Magnum and really what drew you towards ZS2 from an investment perspective?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. So Magnum is a private company that we mainly do real estate development. That's my main business. So we build commercial office, retail, some hospitality in Western Canada, mainly Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, a bit of BC lately. We also have what I would call our investment side, or our capital investment markets. So we do some interesting investments such as ZS2. What got me pretty excited about ZS2 was I knew Scott before. I knew his pedigree, which is obviously very good, but the technology is something that really caught my eye. Being in the construction world, I like to build things. That's my job. It's what I like to do. So we're always looking for innovative ways to produce the best product we can. And when in this day and age, our goal is to attract good tenants. And right now, we're certainly seeing that if you can do anything in sort of the green lead world and produce really efficient buildings, we're attracting tenants with that. So that was sort of what caught my eye. And when I started talking to Scotty during COVID, which him and I both can talk for a long time. So, we had a lot of long conversations. We had a lot of time. So, it was really interesting to be sort of on the ground up, watching Scott, start ZS2 and, he's really passionate about it, and he's one of the best flag wavers in the world, if you ask me. He lets people know that we're here. He's passionate about it to the point that ZS2 is essentially named after his family. So, and Scott can speak more to that. But there's a Sarah and a Sam and a Zach, so you can figure that out. But for us, we always are looking to invest in stuff in Alberta specifically that's a little bit not on the beaten track. I think I can help in this with this company, and I have. So I was as well. James is on the call too, another board member. We started on as an advisory board, and now it's a full board, and it's been a great opportunity for me even to learn about clean tech and what's going on in the industry. And I truly believe in the product, and that's the main thing. And then the people behind it. I always say, you got to invest in an idea, but it's a team that's going to take you to the next level. And I do believe we have a top tier team here. So yeah, that's my long-winded answer to that question.
Thanks, Matt. Awesome. That's great. Scott, what's the business model, and what have you discovered since implementing? And is there any tweaking that really needs to be made right now?
So we started the business model. I would describe it as a bit of a hybrid distribution model. So for folks on the call, an analogy would be, we're maybe Caterpillar and we have Caterpillar dealers, or we're Ford and we have local Ford dealers. And that was new for the prefab kind of construction industry. So to my knowledge, in North America, like this is a new business model for what we do. But we were borrowing it from the interior construction industry and from our experience with dirt. And there's a large member of the team here at ZS2 which has that pedigree now. And the reason that is important for us, and it's actually one of our competitive advantages, is construction, even though it's the world's largest industry, is the most fractured and it's the most local. You need local boots on the ground. You need that local representation. So we've rapidly built out a distribution model, and now rapidly growing sales pipeline. That's actually what kind of scares me in our business right now, is looking at what's coming at us. Because we have local relationships throughout the United States and Canada. So we have partners in Ontario, Alabama, Florida, Utah, Colorado, Northern California, Southern California, Oregon, Washington State, Alaska, British Columbia, Alberta, and then discussions with others ongoing right now. So the distribution model, having those local relationships, people with existing construction pipelines that we tap into, and now we're making them the innovators in their local markets. Okay, gotcha. And who are your target customers then? So for us, it's really anything that you can build, stick build, framing, whether that's lumber, steel, concrete, tilt-up concrete. We can also build, be the building envelope, be the structural panels, be the fire-rated materials, be the sheathing. So for us, that means home builders. That means people might be individual customers focused on sustainability. As Matt touched on, folks who want to reduce their energy use of both commercial and residential buildings significantly. In California, Title 24, it's called state law, requires you to get an energy efficiency analysis for your building permits now. But if you build with our products and others like us, not magnesium products, but SIPs, that requirement is waived. So that kind of highlights how much more efficient our products are in terms of energy use. Large developers, and Matt touched on it, folks, like a lot of Matt's investments throughout Western Canada, where the developer, the owner of the assets, wants to attract clients, tenants who are demanding more sustainable, resilient buildings. So it's really a wide range of customers. Right.
So like in the last few years, what have you experienced as really the most prominent objection to adopting your technology? Is there hesitation around the tech panels, the bricks, the boards? What is the friction that you're seeing in getting individuals or customers or your target market to adopt this technology?
So probably two things, and pretty brief. One, construction, world's largest industry by far. Also, the most resistant to change by far. There's actually an article from a few years ago that a lot of companies like us will quote out of The Economist saying 20 major worldwide industries last 20 years, construction is the only one to go backwards. Wow. So that's number one. So that's a change. construction. People like to do it the way they've done it. And there's a lot of people that make a lot of money with all the layers of inefficiencies built into a construction project. Anybody listening in this morning who's done a renovation, done a build, done a development, you're probably nodding your head a little bit, challenges that we face. The second thing, which we've largely addressed here at ZS2, which we saw in our previous companies, was, another mentor of mine has a great expression, and some of you can probably guess who said this, and he's got this great line that he says, "Next to my wife, the most powerful person in the world is the building inspector." And so what that means is we've had to invest a lot as a new material, like a truly proprietary, first of its kind material manufacturer, in a lot of third-party testing and certification. And we've almost invested $1 million in our early stages. So that means with, Intertech, QAI, Southern Alberta Institute of Technology, University of British Columbia, University of California, Berkeley, other CCMC, which is the National Research Council of Canada. So it's a lot of investment to get certification. This afternoon, we have a very important meeting with Alberta New Home Warranty, and we're going to hand them, we are actually literally going to hand them a binder with all of our testing. For all of you listening, this is actually important. If you're moving into a house or a condo building or maybe we're building an assisted living facility or a hospital, we're a new material. You want to make sure that we not only meet building code, but we exceed it, and that building is going to stand the test of time. So
awesome. So you've taken this company really from a startup to a scale up in a relatively short period of time. You already have, I think, 15 plus strategic distribution partners. You're a leading sustainable building materials developer. What do you think, or I guess, what do you know, were the winning conditions necessary to do this?
So big shout out to Intergen again, because you're big part of the reason that there's a foundation and an ecosystem, and ecosystem is kind of an overused term, but really there's the opportunity for companies like us to start and scale rapidly here in Alberta and here in Calgary specifically. And it's pretty simple. It's access to strategic resources, partnerships, R&D, but capital. And luckily for us here in Alberta, here in Calgary, there's such an entrepreneurial spirit. I think originally born out of probably the oil and gas industry. Interesting, the oil and gas, the energy industry is just the amount of money they spend on innovation is really staggering and impressive. Us as well as a company right now. So just having that, that environment that allows us to think like entrepreneurs. And it's not to say look, people are creating companies all around the world all the time. We talk about in the US, but there is an Alberta advantage. And it's just the know-how and access to experienced entrepreneurs and business people to support us. Matt Grieve on the call, investing in us, really, independent of Matt's investment dollars, it's been the doors he has opened. Our other board members, same. So there's a huge advantage for being based here.
Right. And Matt, what have you observed were the winning conditions for ZS2 from really an investment perspective or a bird's eye view?
Well, one of the main things that catches our eye at Magnum would be the non-dilutive credits, tax credits that we're going after. So the SDTC, I think I got that right, Scotty.
Yep.
They just ZS2, or we just secured, I think it was $3 million, Scott?
Just under $3 million. That's right.
So that's non-dilutive, right? So, for an investor to have access to money that doesn't dilute our shares, that's huge. That's something that doesn't really happen in traditional investments. What's going on, even with like the manufacturing tax, what's coming in for like actually building plants, like Canada itself is going to be, I think it's 30% of all new clean tech plants you can get tax credits for. Big wins it would be that we've had a lot of good strategic partners like Baymag, Lithium Bank, I believe Suncor. These are big companies that are smarter than me, and they have a lot long. They cast a big net, And these guys are wanting to work with ZS2, and it's going well. So on investment looking investment wise, like it just gets better. It really does. It gets better. And like one of the things that I'm super interested in is like if you want to look. I actually think everybody on this call should take a look at the Inflation Reduction Act in the US. Like it's probably one of the most amazing things that's happening. They're literally, it's the single largest investment in climate and energy in Americans' history. That's what we're going to be going after. It just gets better. It gets better and better. So as an investment purpose, like we just look at this going, oh great, we're going to be able to get these credits, we're going to be able to try to change the world a little bit, and at the same time we have our duties to our shareholders to turn a good profit. So if we can actually, if I can make an investment that checks all those boxes, I'm happy, and so are my investors. So it's a exciting time for this industry, and it's an exciting time to see what North America and the rest of the world is trying to do to clean up the world, and we'd like to be a part of that.
Definitely. Thanks. Well said, Matt. I've seen a lot of articles on like the builder and construction industry. I mean, it's known for its heavy carbon emissions. How has ZS2 managed to reduce their carbon footprint with their products and services to battle this constant argument you're hearing?
So, one thing we all need to remember with construction is you can have a superior product, both in performance, sustainability, everything else. But if you're not cost effective, it's going to be difficult to get people to adopt. So that's been a number one focus for us, is also making sure our solutions are cost effective and provide a lot of value for our clients. The second piece is to kind of go into the technology just really briefly.
Yeah, no, we'd love to hear about it.
Our insulated panels, so structurally insulated panels. So for those on the call that aren't familiar with ZS2, we are the building envelope, or the structural envelope for a house, a school, assisted living facility, industrial building, commercial. The panels are manufactured here in Calgary, Alberta. We utilize, and what's different is we utilize a magnesium cement board. So instead of Portland cement or limestone cement. So if you think about the mountain near Canmore, Exshaw, that's coming down, that's limestone. The creation of limestone cement, which is the most used man-made product in the world. The only thing humans consume more of is water. That's how much cement we use in the world. Wow. Well, for every ton of cement produced equals 1 ton of CO2. And the reason is we heat up that rock to 1500 degrees. We use a lot of big equipment to crush it. But we're heating it up to 1500 degrees to actually chemically release CO2 from the limestone, which is CaCO3, because we want CaC, we want calcium carbonate. And so that's cement. So it's a double whammy. Magnesium cement is actually the world's oldest building product. Great Wall of China, Roman aqueducts, Brooklyn Bridge is the last major project in the US. But it isn't readily used. And the reason is magnesium oxide, so not magnesium. By the way, for those of you who remember high school chemistry class, you put magnesium in water, you put a flame to it, not good. But what magnesium does is that when it oxidizes, which is how it's found in raw quantities in most of the world, then it actually becomes the most stable element at high heat. The tiles on the space shuttle, magnesium oxide tiles. So the challenge for us is it isn't just the recipe for this unique cement, it's also geographic availability. And that's where our partnership with Baymag comes in. So Canada's only magnesium oxide mine and refining facility is also located in Exshaw and in Radium, British Columbia is where the mine is. And it's the purest in the world. The second thing, and Kyle, this will tie into your opening comments about our recent announcement with Lithium Bank, is there's a lot of companies extracting or working on extraction of lithium. And by the way, another shout out to Christina, because the team at National Bank has really helped us understand this whole market and how it ties into CO2. There's 1,000 times more magnesium in the saltwater brines found here in Alberta. And here in Alberta, that water that's underground, prehistoric aquifers, we don't pump oil and gas in Alberta, by the way, we pump salt water and take the hydrocarbons off it. Yeah. So I wish Ottawa would start calling us a saltwater province. So there's 1,000 times more magnesium, and that's part of our process is using that with Baymag. The third piece, and this will tie into the question, is magnesium likes to bind with CO2.
Okay.
Limestone cement, limestone Portland cement, the process extracts CO2. Magnesium likes to bind with CO2. And so our initial patents, there's many filed, but some of which will be made public, are really about the mineralization of that CO2 with that magnesium. But for us, this isn't about carbon sequestration. We actually want that CO2 in our product because it makes our product even better. It makes it stronger. And by the way, it's a double win. Actually, it's a triple win because that CO2, our process to get it is very inexpensive because we don't need to purify it. We don't mind if there's other, minerals or off gases in it because it's going into cement. But we can also get it for free. Actually, it gets better. People are actually now talking to us about paying us to take that CO2 and put it in our products. So that's what, this is where the investor side gets us excited. And I know, Matt.
Yeah, it can be lucrative. Interesting.
Yeah. So I know that was sort of it really is us taking all these interesting technologies that are out there and putting them together in a novel way for the world's biggest industry.
No, I love it. Yeah.
And then, sort of jump in, I meant to bring up the carbon credits. Like that's a revenue stream that I believe that, we weren't even talking about at the genesis of all this. Right? So, again, I'm not just trying to, talk about how good ZS2 is, but I guess that's why we're here. But, that's a nice little thing to see that there might be a whole new revenue stream that can come into the company that we didn't even expect. And, that's only happened a few times in my career. So
yeah, that's a home run. If you ask me, that's great. Thanks, Scott and Matt, for that. I understand it more and sort of how it works in the carbon capture. So thank you. Scott and Matt, this is for both of you. Really, it's around mentorship. How has this positively impacted your business and your career, and at the speed of which you've been able to really execute your vision and your goals? Have you had mentors or individuals that really helped you along the way?
Matt's been a tremendous friend, business associate for a while. I don't know, Matt, do you want to take a stab at that question first, and then I'll add in?
Yeah, I've been very lucky, in my career, even, starting back in, Oxford Properties is one of the, it's owned by OMERS. It's one of the biggest pension fund real estate companies in the world. So, I had some great mentors there learning, working at West Corp. Phil Milroy and the team there was great. They let me have access to, learning how to build a building, sitting on top of a building with a green roof, trying to figure out how that works in Calgary. It sometimes does. And I'm lucky to have great family members around me. My father has been a great mentor to me, my brother, and then I've been lucky enough to be involved with an organization called YPO, which is Young Presidents Organization, and before that I was in something called EO, which is Entrepreneurs Organization. Both of those organizations are really foster the entrepreneurial and mentorship aspects of a person trying to build a career. So I've been very fortunate to have a lot of great people around me that's been very nice to me and take their time to help me grow what I like to believe is a pretty successful little business in Calgary. So
thank you.
Yeah, and Kyle, from my perspective, mentorship, colleagues, some of the organizations I've been lucky enough to be involved with, the people like Jamie Paulson, Mogan Smed, having an advisory board from day zero at ZS2 with Derek Payne, James Maxon, Dave Richardson, Matt Grieve, Amy Reusler, David Mears, and then transitioning that to a full board and, just how sort of we run our company. It's invaluable, right? These are all people in my life, and there's many more. Having gotten to know Sandy over the years, Sandy's cousin Mark McGregor. I'll give a shout out to Mark, who was at an Intergen event. Mark and I speak quarterly, and it's usually 20 minutes. The man is actually incredible. As a side note, it's like, okay, go, give me the update. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, I got one question. Okay, great, wonderful update. Thanks. Talk to you next quarter. But there's folks that we can learn from. They've made mistakes. Look, ZS2 is growing very quickly. We've already had speed bumps along the way. Ask my team in the back with the pilot plant for the 2 foot by 2 foot tiles about issues with suction and the blowouts we've had with the magnesium cements last week, which they've now solved for our investors on the call. Everything's been solved. But the ability to pick up the phone, talk to a Christina Lopez and get her views on monetizing carbon credits.
Right.
Like, talk about a whole other language that we're still trying to figure out. But yet we have one of the experts here in Western Canada that I can phone and go for breakfast with. It's, you need this to build a successful company. I know Intergen, this is a big piece of the DNA there.
Right. And Sandy, did you have a question?
I have like 1,000 questions. First of all, we're not able to chat between each other today. Could be the size of our meeting, but we'll resolve that next time. So everybody's sending me great questions. So I'm feeling like I'm trying to field them all. But Scott, one of them is, and I know this, but I'm going to ask you, what's in the middle of your board? And can you describe a little bit about how that works?
Sure. So actually, just to have the call, quick product plug.
I have one of those in the office. I show it to people all the time.
Think about an insulated panel. This is what it looks like. There's an electrical chase cut out. This is just a sample. It's really simple. We build Oreo cookies and they're structural. The secret sauce is this board. It's the magnesium board. The not so secret sauce is extruded polystyrene. So it's styrofoam, type 1, type 2, type 3. We have graphite infused. It's rigid insulation. It provides very high R value, extremely high U value. So thermal bridging. This is becoming kind of the next big thing that developers, building inspectors, jurisdictions are looking at in terms of thermal insulation. And that's why we secured that huge project on McLeod Trail at Trico that was so successful. It's just wrapping up. Was all about energy efficiency. It's a little bit of our Achilles heel. I fully own it, in that it's a petroleum product and it's styrofoam. It can be recycled and we recycle it. But some people have asked us, especially in the US, well, if you're a sustainability focused company, here's the answer right now. We're focused on the material science with the magnesium board, which right now is a 70% carbon footprint reduction versus alternative building methods. When we bring online the Canadian solution with the carbon capture in the next 12 months, it becomes a carbon negative, not neutral, negative product. There are other innovative companies that we're working with that have other really interesting insulation solutions. We will partner with 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. There's some really neat stuff. But for now, the energy efficiency of building this way far outweighs the carbon footprint of that material. So we've done the full calc, and don't take my word for it. Go to the world's largest environmental product declaration company, SCS. We're fully certified. We've done all the data over 2 years with all our projects, and we're a 70% reduction versus other conventional construction methods. So that's what it is. It's an Oreo cookie.
Yeah, that probably leads into Panat's question, who just left and said, thank you everyone for being here. But he said, the diversification, from a diversification perspective, carbon fiber from bitumen is a key focus area for Alberta. So can you talk a little bit about what that means to you?
So I have to be careful here. My little tease earlier. There's some really interesting things going on in this province with the energy industry and what they're doing with some of the natural resources we have. And it's not just in terms of sustainability or innovative products. It's resiliency, strength, lightweight, and there's some really cool stuff. So we're a material science company, but we also have this incredible distribution partner network, tech partners we call them, building. So we are rapidly building our sales channels. So for us to partner with some of these larger innovative companies and what they're developing is a natural fit. So it's probably maybe I'll stop there just in case I get in trouble based on who's coming to see us tomorrow.
Okay, right on. Good, Scott. Cal, I'll turn it over to you and I'll wait for some more questions here.
Sorry, someone had to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's Brian Flusky.
Go ahead, Brian.
Add a comment. First of all, big thanks, Scott, Matt, and Christina, for your support on this very intriguing session today. And your probe into this clean energy space is infinite, and looks like you're doing it thoughtfully. From our perspective at Intergen, of course, the crossover with mentorship with Matt and Scott is a palpable value add contribution, and we're excited. That's what we're all about, of course. I have a question, and that is, it's exciting that you're getting the CO2 and you're binding with CO2, and in fact, maybe getting paid to use CO2. How the hell do you get it? Is it a product line that delivers the CO2 to you, or how does that delivery take place?
So great question, and something I didn't really touch on. So probably the missing piece. Our co-founder, Dr. Doug Brown, so Doug's PhD chemist. Doug would have been on the call today, but he's actually at the UBS Carbon Next conference in San Francisco, where he's a speaker this morning as a guest of the Carbon Removal X Prize, which is the largest X Prize in history, funded by our friend Elon Musk, who is not having a great morning as I saw that take off. So sorry, Elon, but the one great thing about entrepreneurs is talk about a person who's just going to keep
try again
forward.
Yeah, I love the guy.
Yeah, amazing. So we're a finalist. We're a worldwide finalist. We were one of 1,168 companies invited to participate in X Prize. Then last year we got nominated as one of the top 60 worldwide finalists. And I'll share, Kristen, Doug, and I were on camera in December, and they're going to be releasing a little documentary on 10 of the companies here shortly after Earth Day. The carbon capture for us, this is the reason I mentioned X Prize and why it's important. Doug's background, and he started his career and got his PhD with a company called Carbon Engineering. For any of you that might know that company, born out of the University of Calgary, actually, moved to BC and is now largely funded by Occidental Petroleum, Bill Gates, and Murray Edwards. And they have a massive $1 billion facility in Texas. So that facility, it's about $1,000 a ton to capture CO2. They have to purify it, compress it, store it, and then do something with it. We don't have to do a few of those steps. And we've come up with, using available technology, but some proprietary additional processes where we can capture both point source emissions from our partners at Baymag, so right off their stack in Exshaw, or direct air capture on site with our partners at Lithium Bank and mineralize the CO2. And then it's about 10 to 12% of our product, but we don't need to compress, purify, store it, or ship it to shipping containers. So that's, we reduce so much cost, and we use it right there in a product we need.
Yeah, very well said. And just in passing, I have to say that one of the beauties about your enterprise and so many others taking place in Calgary is the intimate crossover of so many people. I, of course, know the Mogans well, who's mentored you. I know your dirt experience and your leadership with Mogans. I know Matt and his family, and Matt's success in real estate, and it feels like family. And so I'm very uplifted by having a family session today and having more and like families in Calgary growing up and making us proud and making Intergen proud.
Well, I appreciate that. And I would add for that, Brian, like your support, Intergen support, the work of Sandy, like it's kind of what brings, Matt and Magnum and his, obviously, his dad's experience running PCL and building that wonderful company up, and Mogans, and we got some exciting things. I always say about Mogans, you think you can go off on your own, but he somehow pulls you back in. And so we've got some exciting announcements with his company Falkbuilt coming soon. But if it wasn't for that ecosystem, again, overused term, I don't think ZS2 exists.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And thank you and we wish you the best. I don't know what your technology IP protection is, but wish you well on that. That would be a big thing to achieve.
Thank you.
Right on. Wise words from our chair, Brian Fileski. Thanks for jumping in there. Kyle, I've just got one question, which probably everybody's wondering here, because we keep talking about magnesium cement, and we have a question from Brian that says, can you pour magnesium cement?
So the answer to that would be there are challenges, but they're good challenges. And this is more industrial design challenges. And we've got members of our team now focused on this. The challenge is magnesium cement is a third of the weight of normal limestone or Portland cement, but it's about 3 times stronger, depending on the formula. But it also cures in 1/7 the time. So if you think about like the old adage is that the Hoover Dam down in the US is still curing in the middle somewhere, right? There's still liquid at some point. So that's really interesting for precast products. That's where we focus to start, is high value precast products, but it could be challenging for ready mix, for say foundations or roads or sidewalks. But it's something we think long-term that we could solve. Here's Here's how it was put to me in Toronto 2 weeks ago by a very large climate-focused private equity, the chairman of a private equity fund that I was having a cup of coffee with. Is he said, we're looking for companies and investments and partnerships with companies that we consider a potential gigacorn. And so I think some of the people listening today might find this interesting because it was fascinating to me. And Paul Atkinson's his name. I promised him that every time I use his term, I'd give him a shout out. There were tech startups and wonderful companies. We think about the Googles, the Teslas, whatever, that were unicorns, right? We always talk about unicorns in investing. What Paul believes the world needs is we need to find gigacorns, i.e. companies that have technologies that could be deployable on a scale that could remove 1 gigaton of CO2 from the atmosphere annually. And here at ZS2, we have that path. We've actually mapped it out. And how that ties into your question, Sandy, or whoever asked it, was that path includes moving beyond precast products, where we are now, construction products, into ready-mix solutions. To do that, we would need further partnerships. If you think about the cement industry and the concrete industry worldwide, it's dominated by some very, very large players, because if you think about it, it takes a lot of capital. There's a lot of trucks, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of factories. Think about the Heidelberg location up in Edmonton, it's massive. Think about Lafarge out next to it, it's massive. So there would be a lot of challenges. But I want to say, we're already thinking about this at ZS2. We've already mapped the path.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Scott. I'm curious about your plans for expansion in the next 5 or 10 years. What's that look like? And what do you think that'll take? Is it more capital? Is it finding more contracts? Is it more expansion, looking towards the US? What does that look like?
Quick answer, all of the above. There's no doubt a need for capital, which we think we can deploy very efficiently. Top line revenue growth, which we're focused on. That is actually, it's interesting. Like, we're a technology company, but concurrent with developing technology, we're focused on sales. Like, we build stuff for our customers, and we just secured our largest contract to date in California for Habitat for Humanity, actually, for 107 homes. So that's our biggest contract to date. So the first 3 show homes will be on our floor in 2 weeks. In terms of expansion, so it'll take capital from potential investors. Matt Grieves touched on, what really interested him is non-dilutive capital. We're really lucky to be supported by our federal and provincial government. And actually, I should give a shout out to the city of Calgary. We were a winner of the Mayor's Innovation Fund technology competition a couple of years ago. Startup TNT, Innovate Calgary was participating in this call, stuff like that. But for us, it's also those customers. So we get deposits on our project, so that helps. And that's a cash flow model we have, very powerful for our distribution model in terms of what we build, and we can get out the door quickly. In terms of physical expansion, it's the plan really is a made in Alberta, near Calgary, probably southern Alberta. We've had multiple conversations, folks. A full board plant that's about 100,000 square feet probably to start. Where we're making the world's first ever, like 8x4, 9x4, 10x4 magnesium cement boards, not just 2 foot by 2 foot tiles, which we are making in our back right now. And then distributed manufacturing, very similar to the dirt model. Mogan's, he nailed it with dirt, and he's going to do the same with Falkbuilt. Getting panel plants, so the sandwich panel plants, closer to our customer base. So for us right now, that looks like probably southern Ontario. The Southeast, probably Alabama, Florida. At dirt, it was Georgia, as was mentioned, and then likely Texas. And we're having some excellent discussions with potential partners in Texas where we put it. The Texas market for us is starting to grow. Our sales pipeline down there has grown rapidly over the last 3 months. And so shipping from here we're economical, but we could be much more economical if we had the plant there.
But Texas is growing quite rapidly.
It's growing very rapidly, and be honest, focus on sustainability there is nice. If you remember a couple of years ago, it's more about energy efficiency. Huge winter storm.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Electrical.
Thank you.
And
sorry, someone just make sure you guys have your mics on mute. We just have a little background noise. Thanks.
And the biggest issue with Texas is access to skilled labor. They can't find people. There's such a growing population and need for housing. The US is short 6.5 million homes right now. 6.5 million homes. How are they don't have the people to build it. and I won't even touch on I won't make any political commentary on immigration, whatever. But the fact is, the construction industry is losing people right now.
Wow.
And they were short to begin with.
Yikes.
Without taking too much air, I'm wondering if, Scott, if you could just give us a financial synopsis. Where are you guys in terms of revenue? Where are you in terms of capital needs? And what are your plans in terms of market access?
Okay, so real quick, it was mentioned at the top of the call. We were a COVID baby. So first year revenue, I like telling people this. First year revenue was $78,000. Second year revenue was $398,000. Just finished our first full second year, so third year, if you will, $2 million. We should do about 6 to 8 million this year. My sales team tells me we'll do a lot more, but I'll believe it when I see it. But our sales pipeline just eclipsed last week $151 million. We have projects where we have letters of intent. We have the drawings, designs, purchase orders signed. I got 2.6 million with my project management team right now, but to the floor. We have $31 million in that final stage right now. We have, just full disclosure, and we're all friends and family. And as Brian mentioned, I appreciate actually the family comment, because it is really a big family here. We have had to outsource 2 projects recently to friendly competitors, other panel manufacturers that use wood, because we've been at full capacity. Bit of seasonality in our business. So in terms of capital right now, and now I full on pitch, I'm going to give you the 30-second pitch.
Yep.
When we learned that we were a finalist for the $2.7 million SDTC grant from the federal government, they came to us, they said there was 2 issues. One issue was just, we had to tidy up some stuff between us and our strategic partner, Progressive Planet Solutions. Amazing company, if you want to take a look at them. And second was, we needed to show the matching funds, which is good for taxpayers to know. They don't give you all the money up front. So we pivoted and we quickly launched late last fall, a convertible debenture. And we've raised about 2.2 million. So enough to secure the SDTC for 2 tranches of funding in January, which we announced. But we're still looking for about $1 million. And then our thought is for the Made in Canada board plant, our tech board plant, that's going to cost us about $7.7 million in equipment. We'll need some working capital. And then, so the thought is, and we've had some discussions with, some potential investment banking partners, some funds, that we're probably going to look to raise 10 to 15 and maybe $20 million later this year.
And is the $1 million in addition to the convertible debenture, or is it another?
So there's another, we'd like to raise, so our goal for the convertible debenture was 3 to 3.5. 2.2 has been funded. We have some indicative interest for probably another $500,800. But as you know, it's, getting the subscription agreement signed, getting the funds in the is always it's a bit of a process. So yeah, if there's anybody interested in
once you send us Intergen your pitch sheet, and we'll see what we can do for you.
And as you can imagine, just listening to myself and Matt today, I love talking about ZS2. So anybody out there who wants an individual, just phone me. Sandy knows I'll talk about this all day. If you want to meet Sunday morning at 8 a.m. at the Beltliner, Christine and I will probably already be there. Yeah. But I will pitch ZS2 to you.
Yeah. What's your pre-raise value?
So the value on the company right now, and with the debenture converts at $2, the lower of $2 or 10% to the future equity raise. That puts a valuation on the company of about $45 to $50 million right now.
Good work. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Scott. That's really impressive sales growth. So congratulations on that. I just got one more question, and then I'll turn it over to the panel, both for you, for Scott and your Matt. What do you think the biggest thing you've learned on your entrepreneurial journey has been, and for you, Matt, in your career? I know it's a vague question, but
geez,
you had to simplify it.
The quick one that always pops into my head, it's probably not the best one, is don't count your money until it's actually in your bank account. That's got to learn that one the hard way. In this environment, speaking about, I'll put my investor hat on. One of the things that I've noticed when companies like ZS2 or Virtuo or Altitude, or all these different companies I've been involved with on our strategic private equity side, one of the things I've learned that I like is when people ask for the amount of money that they actually need. Investors like me, private equity guys don't love when there's a couple tranches. You know, if you need $3 million, fine, you know, ask for $3 million. You know, if you need three and then you can't get it, you drop down to one and they start messing around. You know, it's not nice to see that we're always trying to, you know, get just the payroll done. So I've always said, like, it's really nice to see companies like ZS2 or Virtuo that are actually achieving. They find out, they take the time, they know exactly what they need to grow the company and to be successful. And that's what ZS2 has done. That's why you've seen them sort of have a bit of a hockey stick here in the last couple of years. So, you know, ask for the amount of money that you really need. You know, don't skimp and then try to, you know, catch up a few months later. It puts a bad taste in investors' mouths.
Mm.
Yeah, on that note, Matt, maybe we can have a chat later, maybe before lunch, just between you and me. You know, just.
Well, the other thing I was going to say is we got to stop. We got to stop the Beltliner. There's a great spot in Martel Loop called Diner Deluxe. We should start going.
True.
Yes, yeah.
Sorry, I can't believe I didn't give you the shout out. Super simple. I have learned, and it's taken me a while. Like, I mean, this is a fairly recent learning with, and ZS2 has just brought it home. The sun comes up tomorrow. Man, have we, you know, we've had some challenges. ZS2, can think back to some of the challenges with Mogan's and our wider team at Dirt. But when you truly know you have something special, just keep going. There's supporters, folks like Intergen, you know, the whole Calgary business community that will be behind you.
Thanks, Scott, Matt. That was incredibly informative, and I really appreciate your guys' time. I'm just going to quickly turn it over to the panel. If you have any questions, feel free to speak up. We only have a couple minutes left, but Fanny, I don't know if you have any additional questions in that dialogue box. But
yeah, no, I would just like to say, if you want to stick around here, we've got a few minutes left. If somebody wants to stick around and unmute yourself, you can put up your hand and we'll make sure that you can ask a question live. I have one here before anybody else jumps in, and it really is about, have you spent any time working with the Indigenous communities and working with them on potentially supporting their infrastructure needs?
So that is a wonderful question. And actually, I'm really glad somebody asked that. That
would be Trish Josephs.
Oh, well, Trish has been a big part of ZS2 in the beginning days and a huge supporter of everything we're doing. And, you know, a bit of a shout out. She also is an investor in the company from early on. So a couple things, working with First Nations for us, we have some experience with that. So Kanaka Bar First Nation, Trish was actually a big part of this in her involvement with SAIT and Foresight, a clean tech accelerator based out of British Columbia, now in Alberta. Is Kanaka Bar burned down when Lytton burned down. So ZS2 was chosen to help rebuild Kanaka Bar as one of our solutions. But the chief out there, who is no longer the chief, Patrick Michel, told me, he said, Scott, what's more important is to not just fire resistance, but he goes, my members of my nation, the following winter had $1,000 hydro or electricity bills because they had this winter on record. So that's number one. Number two, we've done some projects with Peace River First Nations, and as Kyle mentioned, we now have 15 tech partners. One of them is Saskatchewan Development Corp, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Takla First Nation of Prince George. So we are working specifically with them on a whole bunch of housing initiatives. The last piece I would mention is really lucky here at ZS2 to get to know over the last 3 years Tom Jackson. Tom Jackson's a very well-known Canadian. You know, he's a well-known actor, musician. Perhaps more importantly, he's an extremely well-known philanthropist. He's an international ambassador for the Red Cross. You know, he is a companion of the Order of Canada. He was elevated last year. Very well connected throughout Canada. But what a lot of people don't know about Tom, 30 years prefab construction experience in the housing industry. He's a big believer in affordable, attainable housing, not just for First Nations, but remote communities, communities in need, communities that need that housing. Tom, quick story about Tom, not on the call today, I don't think. Tom, I had actually asked him to be part of our technical advisory board. I wanted to do some joint marketing with Tom. So we had some discussions over a year and a half ago. He asked me for lunch And he said, Scott, I don't want anything to do with an advisory board. I don't want to be technical. And I actually was quite taken aback, and I was worried that I had offended him. And he said, here's what I want. I want to come work for you. We will save lives. And that's his catchphrase. He makes me say it every time I see him. First, he gives you the man is massive, by the way. He's like 6'4". And he gives you a massive hug. And then he always says, Scott, what do? We save lives. So, you know, it has me excited. So without going to some specifics of some nations that we're working with in Manitoba, in Ontario, in Alberta, in British Columbia, we have some exciting projects coming.
Awesome. Fitzsimmons, I see John's got his hand up. Can you unmute yourself, Fitz? And
yeah, Scott, have you ever worked with Metal Kalin from Whitemud out of Saskatchewan?
No, haven't, John. Would love an intro. You know, that real quick, the benefits for First Nation housing, as we're learning from Tom, from some of the folks we're speaking with, you know, had a great conversation with the CEO of Sutina recently, who, you know, has some interest in us maybe putting the board plant out there. The housing needs of the First Nation communities, a lot of them are remote, a lot of flooding in Saskatchewan and Manitoba. So a big issue with mold, which I didn't know. And so our solution to the magnesium cement is antimicrobial. Mold can't grow on it. And so we're learning, you know, it's similar to the, you know, the CO2 stuff. So with any intros or ideas you have, John, would love them.
And I see Daryl Bishop's got his hand up. Daryl?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks, Scott and Kristen. Happy Series A and B investor here. So appreciate all the hard work you guys are doing. When I look at the sort of the space right now, and I want to echo Matt's comments just around when you think about the amount of capital you need and access to that capital right now. I mean, Scott, no secret, you're a public company CEO. No secret, Christina is in the business of taking companies public. Just want to know if that's on your roadmap, because I mean, we're talking significant capital here to raise, but now is kind of the time to do it. You're in the sweet spot. You got a big backlog of orders, and investors are hungry for new ideas.
Right. So that's a massively loaded question. So thank you for putting me on the spot there. Yeah, like obviously that's our background. I would say a couple things. One, yes, we're having discussions with everybody. Access to capital is important for us. Just as important, and in our past this was true, if and when a company such as ZS2 was to pursue a public listing, it wouldn't just be about capital. The benefit for us would also be access to customers. We're in construction. If you think about it, you know, if I get interviewed on BNN, I don't just get to talk to potential investors. I get to talk to potential customers. So that does excite me. Second thing would be, I still think there's some more milestones for us to hit. I do think there's a cost to being public in terms of admin, you know, people. You want to do it right. Actually, third thing I would add, though, is whether we're private or public, we act at ZS2, and you can ask our stakeholders, our shareholders, you know, Daryl, you've been such a tremendous supporter. We're not perfect, but we really try to act with board, financial reporting, quarterly reports, transparency, you know, as if we are a public company. It just makes us a better company, whether we're public or not.
Yeah, I agree with that. And even using your stock as currency, I mean, echo again Matt's commentary on the US and the IRA. You know, an opportunity to be seen as a made in America product at some point would be a huge benefit. So anyway, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, on that note, I would add, and you know, and it's to be determined, but you know, we're dreamers here at ZS2 in terms of not just the material science, the R&D, but also building a really great Canadian company. One thing personally, this is just personal comment real quick, and I've seen it with some predecessor companies where they get bought out by America. Why can't we, to Daryl's point, use our stock and be the acquirer? That being said, to take that a step further, there's a lot of little, small, regional prefab panel companies out there that don't have our distribution, don't have our access to capital, and don't have our proprietary material science. So I'll leave that there.
And one more, Craig, you're up in the corner with your hand up. You're muted, Craig.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you. I know we're over time, so I appreciate you taking my question. Thanks again for the presentation. I'm involved with a hemp processing company here in Calgary, and we are developing now insulation, which would fit nicely with your product. It also captures carbon. It's anti-mold, and it would also, fulfill a lot of your requirements. So I think we should connect. We also have a CPC that we're looking at other parallel ventures to vend in. So I think we should connect.
So for anybody, thanks, Craig. I appreciate that. I really mean it. Please, everybody reach out to me at any time. So Scott.Jenkins at ZS2 Technologies, plural.com. Or just give me a call, 403-389-5767. By the way, I learned that from Mogan's. Brian is like, you want to know how we operate as a company? Here's my direct line. I'm the CEO, one of the co-founders. Just call me.
Yeah, no, he's fantastic in that regard.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for the question, Craig. We're going to wrap things up now. I just quickly want to thank the panel. Those were wonderful questions. And I also want to quickly thank our sponsors, Top 7 Over 70, RBC, Synovus, Sandstone Asset Management, Prairies Can, and Calgary Economic Development. Thank you so much for your sponsors. Don't forget, May 30th, we have another Breakfast Club. It's our second episode in the Climate Tech series, and we'll be joined by ZS2 Technologies, their Chief Development Officer and their Chief Financial Officer. So that's May 30th. Scott and Matt, thank you so much. It was great talking to you both and really appreciate your time.
Well done, Kyle.
Thank you, Kyle. Thanks, Sandy. Thank Brian, everybody with Intergen. You guys are doing a tremendous job. Really appreciate the support.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, guys.
Best
Really
wishes.
appreciate